Welcome back to another episode of Pinals People. We're out here at the Casa Grande Ruins National Monument in Coolidge, and joining us today is Dave Carney. Dave served as the program manager for interpretation education at the National Park for 9 years and was just recently named the park superintendent. Dave, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So to start off with, we were talking a bit off camera about how you've had a pretty lengthy history out here. You've been with the monument for, I think you said, about 9 years, correct? Yes. For people who might not be familiar with the Casa Grande Ruins, though, and might not be familiar with you, can you share a little bit about your background and what got you into the Park Service?
Sure. 9 years ago, I came here as the manager for education and interpretation, and that sounds like a mouthful, but basically what my job was to work with the public visitation, anything from education to the everyday visitors that just come and go. And my career has been spent doing that in the National Park Service. So I've been doing that for about 30 years, 8 different park sites before, 7 of them before I got here. So started here 9 years ago, came on as the manager for public operations, and have been in that role up until now when I've taken this job.
Very cool. And so can I ask you, when you think back to your early days in your career, what kind of piqued your interest to get started in Park Service?
Sure. Really what piqued my interest is what piques a lot of interest for people that work for the Park Service. It's when you're growing up and you go on family vacations and you go off to see various different sites. And the National Park Service has historic sites like this, but it also has natural sites and battlefields and national seashores and recreation areas. And as a kid, you get out of school, you're out for the summer, or you have a break and you go off and you do that. It's a vacation. It's exciting. And real quickly, whenever when you're growing up and you visit sites like that, you're like, wow, I just want to do that the rest of my life. Well, of course you do. It's a vacation. But as an adult, I realized that I had the opportunity to work in a place that people wanted to go to. And I got to wake up every day and it was my job to go there. And it's no better job in the world. And I just thought that would be a fantastic opportunity. I was lucky enough to secure a position in the Park Service and then work amongst these 400 plus parks in the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's an incredible story. So, the Ruins National Park, it's, when you think of, I think a lot of the times people, when they think of national parks, they tend to have misconceptions and think about the bigger parks, right? Of course, Ruins is a little bit of a smaller park, but and as I understand it, you've worked with several other parks over your time. What drew you in particular to the Ruins?
Yeah, first off, it was just the ability to kind of explore. I honestly applied to the position and seen that it was open. And my first question is, what is that? And so I looked it up, and the National Park Service has a great series of websites for all of its national park sites. And the more I looked into it, the more I got excited about the opportunity to come to some place that had such a rich history. The things on this site existed long before there was a National Park Service. And long before most people were even settling in the country. So you have a structure made out of the earth that's 800 years old, built by people that there's no written history left behind to explain what it was that they were doing. And so there's mystery to it. There's ingenuity. There's people learning to survive in an environment and come together as a community. And long before there was a park service or that there were settlers out in Arizona, and people came across it after they had already redispersed and there weren't people actually physically living on the site anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, I'm really glad you brought that up, because that was one of the questions I was going to ask you next is, since the time you've been here, what do you think has been sort of the biggest thing that surprised you about the ruins, or the biggest thing you've learned from the ruins?
I think in any site that you go to, what always tends to surprise me whenever I go to a new park is the attachment that people have to it. It's the people today that surprise me, more than the history itself. And when you get there and it's somebody that lives 2 blocks away and has been in the area for 30 years, and they walk into the park and say, "This is the first time I've actually come here. I drive past it every day and I've never come here." Other people that have more meaningful attachments. We have our tribal partners who, to them, this is family. This is their culture, and that is what we're protecting. We're protecting their culture, their history, and that attachment is extremely important. And that, in a way, is surprising, because you don't know what to expect until you're talking to the people, until they can tell you the feelings that they have, and that you can't not be surprised. As people explain how much a site like this means to them, you're always surprised. And I think you should be.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's really amazing. So, what have you, over the last few years, what have you enjoyed most about being a steward of this site?
I get to come here and look right out my window and see something that some people have driven halfway across the country to come see. But I think what I enjoy most is the idea that I can still see the park through everybody else's eyes. I get up every morning and I get dressed, and I put on the same clothes, literally the same clothes, to come to work every day. And I come to the same park. And you can understand, you can see that your office becomes your office. It's the place that you see every day. And that can become very commonplace. But the one thing that you get here is you always have the new people coming to see it for their first time. And so you get to watch them see the site for their first time. And that makes it always new. That makes it always something that's new and interesting. And that changes every single day.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, so as I mentioned earlier, you were recently named superintendent of the park, which congratulations on that. And so, as someone, who's been in the community for a while, and I love the fact that you've been talking so much about community, because I think it says a lot about who you are and your character. But if you could, give, if you could give one message to the greater Pinal County community about yourself as superintendent of this park, what would it be?
Sure. Being named the superintendent makes me the site steward, and in a way that it's really my job now to make connections with the people that are already connected here, whether they're just residents that live nearby, or they have the deeper connection where they're part of the tribal communities that actually have that deep connection here. Every single day, it's my job now to see if we can improve on those relations and make sure that people feel like this is their site. It's their place to come and see, and that we're doing a great job protecting it for them. That is my job at that point, and I'm sure there'll be days that I don't do it as well, and other days that maybe I can pat myself on the back and be happy for it. But what it really comes down to is that the communities that I work with, that they feel that I'm doing a good job, and I hope that over my time here that's what I do. I gain the respect of everybody around, that I maintain that respect, and that I do a great job for them. And that's what my job is, despite any other title or any other description. It's to do a really good job for the public.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. And then Dave, just a couple more questions for you. What's something you wish more people in the general public knew about the ruins?
I think the one thing, and this is always going to be an ongoing thing, it's for people to have an understanding that despite what this site might mean to them, it's going to mean something even more to other people. One of the things that I like to reiterate for folks is that this site is a cultural site. It's a site that is protecting the history and the culture of people. And that means that you've got to take the time to be respectful of what you're protecting. If it was your family and all of a sudden a big government organization started to take care of your family's history, imagine what that would feel like. And every word that they say about your family would have such deep meaning, and hopefully it's done respectfully, and that it's done in a way that that maintains the integrity, but also protects the history in an honorable way. It's a big job, and when people have a really intense connection and it's within their bloodline, you really have to go out of your way to make sure that you're doing things in the most respectful way possible. And I think that's what everybody needs to understand when they come to a site like this, that it is a site that means so much to some people that you really need to make sure that when you're here, that you come in with that respect, or that you gain the respect as you're here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then we do have just one last question for you. And this is a question we've kind of made it our goal to ask everybody who's been on the show. And I'd love to get your perspective on this, which is, let's imagine it's, 30, 40 years down the line, and you're getting ready to kind of hang up your hat and pass on the stewardship of the site to someone else, the next generation. And out of all your time here, everything you've learned with the National Park Service, you can only pass along one lesson or piece of advice to the next generation. What would it be?
What I think I would pass along is that that's a big question. There are things here that are more important than things we focus on every single day. In the Park Service and the government, they refer to a site like this as having significance, and or refer to it as even national significance. This site, this area, is a piece of our country's history, but it's a piece of people's history. And I think that we can get locked into every day, waking up, going to work, doing our job, having our goals for our life and for our family. This is a place that you put everything else down and you walk into and you respect it for what it is. And you respect the idea that it's still here for you to see. So when I hang up my hat, I hope that people are still coming here with that thought, with that idea, that there are still places to go. There are still places to go where you set down your phone, where you put aside all the distractions and you look at what's right in front of you and you accept what's there, and you learn from it. And there's always something that can be learned from a place like this and kept in mind as we move forward into the future.
Wow, that's amazing. Dave Carney, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.